I'm working too hard for these things. I gotta subscribe.
So you can say it's Indiana Jones. Everyone, welcome back from Game Over Buds. This is AlanStarWarsFan here doing commentary again, and we're doing our demo with the next PlayStation Underground issue, Volume 2, Issue 3. Let's like to show you some more stuff they have in this one. Alright, here comes the next one. Okay. For this one here, you get a lot of great stuff here. Like a debriefing about the creator of PowerDirector. So let's go listen to it.
Welcome to the Fruits Dojo. I trust that you are here to redeem yourself.
There's a whole new genre of interactive music video games. Here's an inside look at how it began.
Are you ready, young one? I shall give you my best.
People always have kind of a wall between music and life. I'm a musician, so I don't feel any wall between music and me. So I want to erase this kind of wall.
Kick, punch your soul in the mind. If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick.
So if people can perform without thinking about the music, maybe it's happy and fun.
As a boy, Masaya Matsuda loved playing keyboards in Space Invaders. As a musician, he played in a rock group called Size and composed for TV and radio ads. But he always felt he was creating for everyone's needs but his own.
I discovered that if the creative motivation only comes from the outside, all the efforts are just to fill the order. In the end, nothing of your true self ever comes through.
So in the mid-90s, he dissolved the band and stopped commercial work, and he staked everything on combining music and video into a new kind of game. It wasn't easy.
But I cannot say that the production process went smoothly. We didn't have anybody with console game experience. Some of the companies we were working with almost went out of business. One after another, there were all kinds of accidents and problems. A key team member even ended up in the hospital after a traffic accident. The entire 2 years were like that.
But in December of 1996, the world's first next-generation interactive music video game was released in Japan. It opened up a new genre, paving the way for games like Spice World and Bust-A-Groove.
Yo, yo, yo! Check this out! It's party time in the house!
For those who perhaps haven't heard of Party, it's a rap game. Basically, the player follows the short word sung by the sensei and presses the button in rhythm to the rap. The rhythm of the sensei is shown on the top of the screen as button symbols. The player just has to follow along and press buttons as shown to the beat. If the player presses the wrong button or is off the beat, the score will go down.
Check this out, come on and bring it down!
The game actually has 4 different soundtracks for 4 different player ranks, woven into a single track. As the player rises or falls in rank, the track changes appropriately in real time. It's a breakthrough in programming.
I am a chicken from the kitchen, and I ain't kidding, although nothing is written. You are a ticket from the kitchen, and you ain't kidding, although nothing is written.
That's why I chose PlayStation. This kind of technology is only for PlayStation. To attain a cool rank, simply following the rhythm of the sensei is not enough. The player must be able to ad-lib beyond the rhythm and button commands of the sensei. So I will show you how to get cool.
PowerDirector won more than a dozen awards, including Game of the Year in Japan and Most Innovative Game at E3 and the Computer Game Developers Conference. Sales took off worldwide, and today it's available in nearly 50 countries.
Did you
check the toilet on the right. 3, 2, check the toilet on the left.
Is it still a video game if there's no competitive scoring? To Matsuda-san, there's only one way to measure it.
It's all yours. That was close.
You still like to enjoy the game?
Yeah.
History about that. And also, the next part here, we're going to do two things. The Making of Spyro the Dragon and the Gamers Developers Conference. We'll show you what they get people together to know which games they want to show to the consumers, who want to show how they can make a good game, for, especially for the PlayStation. Especially the PlayStation was a big thing at the time too for the conference. So you'll see of how they give some ideas to show what they can do with the PlayStation console. Hey, don't look at me like that. What did I do to you? Anyway, here you go. Making a Spyro the Dragon.
When you make a game, all you start with is a blank piece of paper and a few big ideas.
I wanted to see a game that was in full 3D, but where the primary focus of the game would be interaction with the enemies. To the best of my knowledge, that had never been done before.
How do you end up with a video game world that pulls you in? How can you make it stand out from other games? Your team will hit development walls and have to search for breakthroughs. Here's the inside story of the making of Spyro the Dragon in an exclusive tour for the PlayStation Underground.
The most difficult part was the beginning, determining what kind of game we were going to do after Disruptor. Craig Stitt said, you know, I've always wanted to do a game about a dragon.
I've always loved dragons. To me, they are just the greatest creature. I mean, it's the combination of a Tyrannosaurus Rex with wings and breathes fire. I mean, you've got the best of everything in a dragon.
And immediately everybody said, yeah, that's it. Because dragons can fly, they can run, they can flame, they can jump, they can do anything, and they're cool.
In the game, you play the part of Spyro. An evil creature named Nasty Nork has cast a spell turning all other dragons into crystal statues.
You have three major objectives in the game. The first is to rescue all the dragons, the second is to collect the treasure that Nasty has stolen from the dragons, and the third goal is to defeat Nasty himself.
Designer Mark Cerny had come from such games as Disruptor, the Crash Bandicoot series, and Marble Madness. In Spyro, he had new ground he wanted to cover.
I had this idea that you could do a panoramic 3D engine on the Sony PlayStation, where there wouldn't be any fog in the distance. And I challenged Alex Hastings to create such an engine.
Most of what it takes to pull off that sort of panoramic engine comes around in, assembly draw routines.
In fact, I told him very specifically how to go about creating it. He blew me off and did something totally different. But it turned out much better than what I had in mind.
Engine to draw the environments has broken down into 7 different little renderers that work on different levels of detail of the environment to try to keep this, the fact that you're seeing a quarter of a mile away and what would be tens of thousands of polygons into something that's more manageable.
Because not only did you have these big, long views where anything in the universe could be seen from afar, but also he created an engine where you could have detail on the objects that were close.
The real trick is that in every transition we try to do a fade or morph transition, something where you're not going to see it.
I think there's never been a console video game where you got both of those. He had to write some damn good code.
The fact that this game is coded specifically for the PlayStation is probably our biggest advantage. When you compare it to, say, a PC or other console platforms out there, the PlayStation is really different. The things it can do well is it can draw an enormous number of polygons. Some of those guys have 5,000 polygons in them. You'd never try to do that on any other console.
Well, I think the flying levels really were a surprise for us. Everybody loved it. We made sure that we had more of them.
I've played the flying rounds, the free flight rounds over and over again, trying to get through all the obstacles in the shortest amount of time and trying different paths to see if I can beat the record. I can easily waste an hour or two doing that and not even realize it.
The DualShock analog controller really allows a great feel and a good freedom of control. You can just point it any direction you want and you're going there. And they've integrated the feedback in there too. You can ram yourself into a wall and you'll just feel it come back at you.
The game also has features especially for hardcore gamers.
In every single instance where you can super dash, there is a secret place you can get to. That is our challenge to all the really good players out there. Not to go out and buy a hint guide or read about them in magazines, but to find out for themselves where it is they can go or what it is they can do.
Another feature that pulls you in is the soundtrack. Spyro includes some well-known voices.
Don't worry, the only one who's going to be trapped is him.
When we were putting together the voice of Spyro, we talked to Carlos Alazraqui first, and last, as it turned out.
I think we went through about maybe 5 or 6 versions, you know, where
He was like really young and had Lionel up in the nose, and then he was like really cooler and older, and they actually recorded something like that.
But then they found out he was too mean.
So then we just kind of did a mixture in between the two, where it's kind of like he's really kind of a go-getter kind of guy and kind of tough, but really kind of nice.
Be on the lookout for no commandos, Spyro.
The other big voice part of the game is with the dragon. One of the voices that we've relied upon a lot is Clancy Brown, who's a well-known actor who was in Starship Troopers.
The dragons are freed from their crystal, and then they give him advice and tell him how to play the game cryptically, you know, to teach him how to fly, how to use the buttons, where to go, what to say, who to do, who he has to fight, who he doesn't have to fight.
As soundtrack and gameplay come together, is Spyro a world that pulls you in? It's already had an effect on the team.
Actually, now, if you walk around the office, a lot of people speak in the voices of the characters.
What?
Album.
Oh!
Ow. You're gonna put that on the tape, I know. That's the only thing I'm gonna have on there.
Oh, that's how they made it. Oh yeah, and I tried the demo too, which I'll show it to you on the next part. Alright, how do gamers make your games? So here we go with the Computer Game Developers Conference.
What's on developers' minds? PlayStation Underground takes you inside the world's biggest annual gathering of video game developers to find out.
Every piece of intelligence in the known universe that it has anything to do with gaming is circling this little small area right now. It's kind of like being in the nucleus of an atom.
I'm Jennifer Falca, and I'm the director of the Computer Game Developers Conference, now called the Game Developers Conference as of today. Our primary attendees are programmers, artists, audio guys, sound engineers, musicians, producers, level designers, people who put together the games.
Well, I'm the mighty fat man himself, and I write music for computer games.
Hopefully what we're going to do is meet with a bunch of publishers, and a bidding war is going to start up, and it's going to propel us to the top.
Well, I'm really excited about the game development business because it's growing hugely. We had about 30% more people pre-registered this year than last year. Some figures say that it's about $9 billion in games this year. I've heard up to $18 billion, depending on who you talk to.
We're making this gladiatorial death race fighting hoverboard game for the PlayStation called Slip Groove.
Currently, we're working on a Sony PlayStation title called Monkey Hero. It's action-adventure, top-down, 3D worlds with 2D characters, and you basically go around exploring, killing monsters, fighting bosses.
But at the same time, game developers still have the same ethic that they've had since the start, which is a strong ethic of sharing knowledge and ideas with each other and sharing technology.
But now I can actually do smoke and fire in real time, and that's going to bring more life to the game.
I've been in a number of businesses, and this business, more so than many of the other businesses I've been in, everyone really wants to do this.
So far, it looks like there's a few more women than there were last year. Normally it's about 95% male, but I've seen a bunch of women in the lobby.
I came up with a game concept, basically, that is totally new, and it's basically aimed at a totally untapped market.
And that's good for the industry, because the industry needs to be able to put out games that everybody can play, and part of that is having women involved in the design process and the programming and production processes.
There's sword fights, there's gun fights, there's Wild West, there's horses, there's bodice ripping, there's kissing, there's, you know, all sorts of really fantastic adventure, but it's from a very romantic point of view.
If you want to be a developer, the first thing to do is to come to the CGBC and meet a bunch of people. For one thing, it'll give you connections, but probably more importantly, it'll give you a sense of what people actually do when they develop games. It's not an easy job to have.
My favorite thing as a PlayStation fan is Shorty's move from Bust to Move.
Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting topic, especially if you want to know what they're doing. Alright, we do Event Center about the evaluators that shows what cool games will be coming to the PlayStation. This one's actually a good one, Event Center here too, especially you can't get to E3 and it's too far away, you have to pay too much for a get a ticket, so it's a good idea to show the exclusive members, show more footage about it. So, here we go. Enjoy.
E3 is the year's biggest video game trade show. This year, over 140 new PlayStation games went on display in Atlanta. We know you'd like to play these games yourself and see which ones are hot, but you're about to meet 4 industry pros who are actually paid to do this. Here's an exclusive look at some of their personal favorites.
Hi, I'm Mark Vitello.
I'm Mike Foster.
Chris Seehofer. And I'm Chris Colon of the third-party evaluation department at Sony Computer Entertainment. PlayStation Underground has asked us to check out some of the hottest games at the show, so let's take a look.
Hi, we're over at the Konami booth, and my first pick for the show is Silent Hill from Konami.
You play this guy who's lost his daughter. You were driving into town involved in a car crash. When you wake up from the car crash, your daughter's disappeared. The only problem is, so is the rest of the town. You can see fabulous lighting effect now. This works very well in the game to build tension. As you're exploring areas, you can't see beyond the range of your light, which means the monsters are going to leap out at you and be almost on your toes before you see them. Look for Silent Hill in a store near you this Christmas.
We're here at Sony Computer Entertainment America's booth, and my first pick is Spyro the Dragon.
This is Spyro the Dragon, developed by Insomniac Games and Universal Interactive Studios. It's a full free-roaming 3D action platform game. Some of the really cool things about this game is that it has these beautiful panoramic worlds, all 3D, with great 3D characters and animation. As Spyro the Dragon, you can flame, roll, glide, fly. So your goal in Spyro the Dragon